Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where we say, whoo, thank golly. Hey, did you hear NVIDIA says there's no backdoors or kill switches in their hardware? Yeah, and we're definitely going to believe them. We're going to take that at absolute and utter face value and know that all of our NVIDIA equipment is definitely secure. Oh, I was a little bit worried there, right? So anyways, here in the United States, we have the whole anti-China man policy, the idea that China has gotten just as far as we like from a technological perspective, and that they should not go any further. So under the Biden administration, we have the AI diffusion rule to try to limit what GPUs can be shipped to China. Under Trump, we have the export control laws or rules that prevent most GPUs and things from being shipped to China. But recently, Trump basically changed the rule so that NVIDIA could send their H20 GPUs to China. So the idea is, supposedly, China relaxed their limiting of selling us rare earth magnets, and for that, we are going to sell them our fourth best AI GPUs. The interesting thing is, after that all got said and done, all of a sudden in China, the Chinese government started saying that the H20 GPUs were going to have backdoors and kill switches, and essentially nobody should trust them, which is a bit of a problem for NVIDIA, right? So NVIDIA, up until that point in time, what was it? They had already produced something like 700,000, or no, it's like they had already produced something like 400,000 or so of the GPUs. They had previously had 300,000 of the GPUs on order, so they added an additional 300,000 GPUs of these H20 GPUs. So they're going to have 1 million of these GPUs in stock to sell to China, and so they're a wee bit scared because, you know, GPUs cost a little bit of money, and they're about to have 1 million GPUs on the shelf that they don't know what to do with if the Chinese folks are not willing to buy their product. And this is one of my concerns, the whole thing with the branding of countries, right? As Zig Ziglar used to say, you sell the sizzle, not the steak. One of my concerns right now, especially with what the Trump administration is doing, also what the Biden administration is doing, and also what Obama did, right? The Pacific Pivot, right? The Nobel Peace Prize winning president focused our entire military establishment to point at China. I'll just remind you of that. But anyways, one of my concerns here is like what happens when the United States simply becomes untrusted? What happens when the U.S., like any product out of the United States, simply has a taint on it that other people are not willing to touch, regardless of how good the product is? Think about that when you go out and you buy a product, right? There may be 2 products on the shelf. One may be technically better than the other, may even come at a better price point. You're like, I'm not sure I really trust that. I trust this one. I don't trust that one. Think about that. But think about that at scale at a nation state level, right? So anyways, NVIDIA's come out. NVIDIA, so this is actually coming from NVIDIA's blog, to say no backdoors, no kill switches, no spyware. NVIDIA is not doing any of that. And there's a reason I say that. There's a reason I say it that way. So from NVIDIA's GPUs are at the heart of modern computing. They're used across industries, from healthcare and finance to scientific research, autonomous systems, and AI infrastructure. NVIDIA GPUs are embedded into CT scanners and MRI machines, DNA sequencers, air traffic radar tracking systems, city traffic management systems, self-driving cars, supercomputers, TV broadcasting systems, casino machines, and game consoles. To mitigate the risk of misuse, some pundits and policymakers propose requiring a hardware, quote, kill switches or built-in controls that can remotely disable GPUs without user knowledge and consent. Some suspect they might already exist. Yes, some people might suspect this for some reason. NVIDIA GPUs do not and should not have kill switches and backdoors. Whenever you're reading anything, though, think about what people are saying. NVIDIA GPUs do not and should not have kill switches and backdoors, right? Graphic processing units. when you buy a card, when you buy, like there's a CPU, right? There's the GPU, there's the actual silicon on the card. So the GPU doesn't have any backdoors or kill switches. One of the things to ask yourself, does the card have backdoors and kill switches? And that's gonna be one of the interesting questions that come up with all of these different vendors out there, right? Hard-coded single-point controls are always a bad idea. NVIDIA has been designing processors for over 30 years. Embedding backdoors and kill switches into chips would be a gift to hackers and hostile actors. It would undermine global digital infrastructure and fracture trust in U.S. technology. Established law wisely requires companies to fix vulnerabilities, not create them. Until recently, that policy was universally held and beyond question. When security researchers discovered vulnerabilities such as Spectre and Meltdown for CPUs, governments and industry responded with speed and unity to eliminate the risk. That principle still holds. There is no such thing as a good secret backdoor, only dangerous vulnerabilities that need to be eliminated. For decades, that's how NVIDIA and American industry have promoted innovation while protecting users and growing the economy. This is no time to depart from that winning formula. I would agree with him there, but let's see, historical lessons. Cybersecurity community learned these lessons the hard way during the 1990s with NSA's Clipper chip initiative. Introduced in 1993, the Clipper chip was designed to provide strong encryption while maintaining government backdoor access through a key escrow system. The Clipper chip represented everything wrong with built-in backdoors. Security researchers discovered fundamental flaws in the system that could allow malicious parties to tamper with the software. It created centralized vulnerabilities that could be exploited by adversaries. The mere existence of government backdoors undermined user confidence in the security of systems. Hardware integrity should be nonpartisan and non-negotiable. For decades, policymakers have championed industry efforts to create secure, trustworthy hardware. Governments have many tools to protect nations, consumers, and the economy. Deliberately weakening critical infrastructure should never be one of them. There are no backdoors in NVIDIA chips, no kill switches, no spyware. That's not how trustworthy systems are built and never will be. I completely agree. Don't know how good that's going to do for you, especially with the Chinese market, but it's very strong wording in there. And that's the concern, right? When the government comes in and they want the backdoor, right? The UK just forced a backdoor into Apple's encryption, and basically because the UK wants encryption to be worthless in the United Kingdom, right? They want to be able to read whatever the hell it is that you're doing because they believe that is their right. The issue is when you start adding these backdoors, kill switches, and that type of thing, there is always going to be a vulnerability there. One of the other questions with this kind of thing is what happens with legacy? Right? So with a lot of the software, a lot of this hardware, the idea is that you should have a refresh cycle, right? Every, 3 to 5 years, maybe push that a little bit nowadays. But anyways, that you should refresh the hardware. So a lot of times with hardware and the software that supports it, the hardware and software will be supported for an amount of time, right? Maybe 5 years, maybe 8 years, maybe 10 years. One of the interesting things to be thinking about, though, is legacy systems, right? Windows XP. I think Windows XP is still being used in ATM machines, right? There was something called embedded Windows XP. Basically, you put it on a storage device and then actually loads into RAM and it completely runs in RAM. So it's good for what are called embedded systems, things like ATM machines, digital signage, that type of deal. Anyways, I do believe ATM machines are still running Windows XP. And XP has been dead for a long time at this point. Why? Because once you install a $10,000 ATM machine, you don't want to have to replace that damn thing just because the operating system on it is old, right? But there's a lot of vulnerabilities in that then. One of the things to be thinking about with like this AI hardware now, again, one of the questions that I've had is a lot of this stuff is kind of good enough. Will people actually go through the refresh cycle, right? If they buy an H20 chip now, are they going to buy the H40 chip or the H60 chip or whatever a couple of years from now? The reality is they just might keep using the GPUs that they have, right? How many of these GPUs just sit in infrastructure and will sit there basically forever. What happens, right, if the government forces built-in vulnerabilities to those systems are still running 10 or 15 years from now. Those vulnerabilities still exist long past the time that the original vendor stopped creating security updates and the rest of it. What does that look like from a security standpoint? So yeah, so building in security vulnerabilities is an incredibly bad idea. I do believe with this, though, that they're obfuscating what's going on. This is something you need to be very careful about when you're thinking about buying any of this kind of hardware and any kind of this product, understanding what all the different components are, right? So the GPU is a silicon. So NVIDIA is very strong about the idea that the silicon should not have any backdoors built into it. And then they have their hardware, right? They have CUDA, plus they have their management software and all that kind of stuff. So they're very strong in the idea that their software should not have any vulnerabilities, backdoors, kill switches built into it. But as I've said before, right, their GPUs are going to get soldered onto ASUS graphics cards, right? You think about this with words, like we talk about GPUs. I think about this. Way back in the day, I used to cry. It's true, I was a noob. I cried about stupid shit too. Anyways, the difference between printers and print devices. Right, when I got my MCSE, so you have to go through this test, and there's all kinds of different things. And so when you're sharing a printer, you don't share a printer. The printer is the pointer in your computer that points to the print device. So when you pull up printers and you see a printer, that is a printer. That printer points to a print device. So when you're sitting there and you're communicating about printers or print devices, when you say, I need to change the permissions on this printer, you're saying, I need to change the permissions on this pointer to this print device. If you say, I need to change the permissions on the print device, or I need to change something on the print device, it means the actual printer itself. Right? Words actually do matter. And so what's interesting here, like we talk about GPUs, right? So many times when we talk about GPUs, you're like, yes, this big thing with three fans on it or whatever else. That's not a GPU. That's a graphics card. The graphics card has a GPU on it. So the GPU may be secure. The CUDA software may be secure. The NVIDIA software may be secure. What about the additional ASUS software? What about the additional ASUS hardware? Can you compromise the system? Can you compromise the overall system without compromising that one specific component? And that's where things start to become a very, 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 very sticky wicket, and why you should be paying attention to the entire market and what's going on with all of these vendors to really understand what's going on. It's the other important thing where I talk about with intention, where I'm concerned right now with the politicians' intention towards artificial intelligence, right? Intention will always drive outcome. Right? Because if you intend to do something, the overall idea of what you want to do, you'll by hook or by crook figure out how to do it, right? We intend to put kill switches on AI hardware, right? Okay, we can't put a kill switch on NVIDIA hardware because that's a no-go. Okay, can we force a kill switch into the ASUS implementation of that hardware? Can we put a kill switch into the Windows operating system connection to that hardware, right? Some kind of DRM or authentication control. And that's where all of this kind of stuff gets really nasty. And that's one of the problems with our politicians right now, right? They have no idea how any of this technology works. They have no idea what our industry actually looks like. All they care about is they are scared shitless that Chinaman might actually be successful, and they want to tamp that crap down regardless of what the outcome is going to be. So it'll be curious. It'll be curious to see where this goes in the future. What do you think about this? What do you think about NVIDIA coming out very strongly and saying, on our silicon with our software, no backdoors? What do you think about the fact that the GPU is only a component of the graphics card? What do you think about our politicians, right? The intent. The intent is not about delivering high quality hardware that will empower human beings to go into the future. The intent is to make sure that Chinaman stays down. How do you think that's gonna go? Put your thoughts down below. Give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down. Say I'm amazing, say I'm a moron. It's okay. All that YouTube cares about is that interaction, so make sure to put that down below. Do remember silicondojo.com exists. We are doing a fireside chat with the VP for AI models for IBM next week. We'll be talking about what IBM is doing with AI, what they're doing with models, that type of thing. You can become a member of silicondojo.com by simply going there. You can RSVP for the fireside chat, and basically come on. It's a Zoom session. You can ask questions, that type of deal. And that's what I got. See y'all later.